is a windy day in Baltimore, but it's sunny and beautiful. So even though it's windy, it's a good day to be outside. Going to take a little walk up and down Charles Street here in the Mount Vernon district, heading toward the Arts District. And we're gonna start here with the beautiful, hey Johnny, we're gonna start here with the beautiful Belvedere Hotel across from the historic Monumental Life building. So lots of great architecture in this area. It is super windy, so you may want to turn off the audio and just enjoy the video a little bit today. We're at the corner of Charles and Chase Streets in the most historic part of Baltimore with some of the most iconic architecture in an area where the wealthy lived back in the day, because it was high up on a hill, as you can see. It was far enough away from the water and the wharf and the smelliness of the oyster and the fish and all that kind of stuff going on. It was away from the mills and all of the industry of the downtown and the surrounding areas there. Currently home to the University of Baltimore and the University of Baltimore School of Law, of which I am an alumna of the University of Baltimore School of Law. It's also close to the University of Maryland Medical Center, Johns Hopkins Medical Center, and all those other great institutions in downtown Baltimore. In fact, at the top of the hill, that very new building with the checkerboard sort of looking design, right at the middle of my screen, that's the Law Center at the University of Baltimore. That wasn't there when I went. That's relatively new. But from that, there's a patio near the roof. Gives you the best view of Baltimore ever is from the patio of that roof there at the Peter Angelos Law Center. Thanks to Mr. Angelos, former owner of the Baltimore Orioles, made a huge donation to the University of Baltimore. So we're here at the corner of Chase and Charles Street. Charles Street is that dividing street of Baltimore. So if you can see this street sign, it says 001 Chase Street West. And if I went across the street, it would be 001 Chase Street East. Woo, sorry for the wind. The wind is actually blowing the camera around. I'll come over here. Baltimore is divided east and west by Charles Street, north and south by Baltimore Street. So we're right in the middle, almost, of the city. But I want to take a really good look at this Monumental Life building. Baltimore has a lot of, I think it has quite a history with life insurance companies and insurance in general. So this is the Monumental Life building. There's also Baltimore Equitable, and there's a beautiful building. We won't see that one today, I don't think. The former Baltimore Life Insurance Company, lots of insurance companies around here. But just check out this architecture, which has been beautifully maintained. And if you check around the windows, you see the metal work around those windows. You'll see that style copied in other buildings throughout the city, including the Enoch Pratt Library. The Central Library branch has that ornamentation around their windows. Hi, Jocelyn. Nice to see you. Hi and bye. But across the way, I'm really hoping the wind gives me a break here. I'm going to cross the street carefully. It's one of those intersections you got to be careful of, because I want to get a look here at the, I will say, world famous Belvedere Hotel. Now condominiums, I think, but We can get that on the shot. Check that out. That is a Baltimore landmark. You can't see it because it's too tall, but it has that mansard roof at the top that is very characteristic of Baltimore. Baltimore really embraced the Second Empire and the Beaux-Arts in their hotels, in their apartment buildings, in their city office buildings, just like Philadelphia did. Philadelphia's City Hall, in a lot of respects, looks like Baltimore's City Hall, with the light stonework and that dark mansard window. It is a huge building. It at one time had a huge ballroom, and I don't know if the Owl Bar is still there. Legendary Owl Bar. Great place to go after a long day in law school classes, to hang out at the Owl Bar. But my great-grandparents had their 50th wedding anniversary in the ballroom here. And yeah, it looks like there's some renovation going on near the top. Maybe those roof tiles are being checked out. But yeah, an absolute beauty here in the center of Baltimore. Cheers to you, Johnny. Hello, DP. No, you won't see me today. Maybe another day. It's too windy. Hair's going crazy today. We're going to take a walk down Charles Street in the neighborhood called Mount Vernon, and it's called Mount Vernon for an obvious reason. It is the neighborhood where Baltimore built its monument to George Washington. So Baltimore has a Washington monument, and it's on this street. And so the neighborhood called Mount Vernon in honor of the estate where the father of our country lived. Raven Nation. Yes, I drove past the stadium on my way here, getting ready for Sunday. Actually, they're doing some strange construction around the stadium. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're building another parking garage or what. Something going on there. Now, this would have been the slightly upscale area in downtown Baltimore. People like H.L. Mencken, Zelda Fitzgerald, wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, Wallis Simpson, the woman who married wanted to marry King Edward VIII. King Edward VIII abdicated his throne for a Baltimore girl named Wallis Simpson, all hailed from this neighborhood or lived here at one time. H.L. Mencken eventually settling in a house near Holland's Market, and I think that house is still preserved today. I have to check on that one once in a while. I'm a big fan of H.L. Mencken. But these are your typical, more upscale Baltimore row houses. They are still individual structures. This isn't one big structure divided. They're still individual, but here you don't get the clear distinction sometimes between the structures like you do in Washington, D.C., where each row house might be a completely different architectural style. Here, they're kind of simple. These are from the 1800s. But these are 4- and 5-story townhomes. So down in Fells Point and Canton, those townhomes where the workers lived, the folks that worked building ships, blue-collar people, they lived in little 2-story homes. These are 5-story. When you count the basement, you had to have some money to have a 5-story here. Hello, Fergus. Yeah, so there's some Georgian influence here for sure. You know, the federal style, colonial style, all had, you know, in that Georgian. But Baltimore also brought in a lot of artistic flair with some Romanesque features, some of that, again, that French Second Empire. So we're going to see all of that. And we'll see a few of these. The white stucco or beige stucco with the black accents. That's a really nice look, I think. And as we get closer to the monuments, the houses get grander because the Mount Vernon Square, where the monument is, that was the place to be. That was like Washington Square in New York. That was the place to be. Okay, Sizzle Moon Song, I will remember to do that. As a genealogist, I always try to remember my ancestors. And I love the movie Coco. Now this one, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know what this one's called. Obviously, a mansion of some sort. Not a mansion. Probably some sort of business. I don't know. We'll have to look this one up. Again, I'm embarrassed that I don't know what this one is. Oh my gosh, the wind. Whoa, camera. Sorry about that. Let's get back to, let me get across the street really quickly. I do apologize. Audio and video is being impacted by this crazy wind today. Okay, I think I'm safe. But yeah, I'll have to look this one up and check it out. Could have been built as a hotel back in the day. It's kind of a mix, kind of an odd architectural style there. Different for this area, for sure. All right, we're gonna walk toward the relative safety of a narrower street. Hi, Alona. Nice to meet you. Oh, who's trolling on the chat? Oh, okay. I saw that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. You all are very kind. But check these out. I mean, these are those great mid to late 1800s townhomes. And if you look, at the vestibule here, a little worse for wear, you gotta look for what it was like. This was probably purpose built, maybe as apartments back in the day. Big, wide townhomes here. So the difference between a row home and a townhome. Row homes generally narrower and kind of similar styles, one to another. But townhomes, generally a little more distinctive. Trying to peer in here. Must show a signed receipt upon exiting the building. Be certain of your order when placing it with the server. Okay, that's for carryout. So this is the manor. And you can see that beautiful fireplace there. Or, yeah. Okay, I don't want to peer in. They're not open. Nepal house here. And this is probably the only area of Baltimore that has true brownstones. Not typical of most neighborhoods in Baltimore. Check out again the ornamentation, the little balcony. The houses get bigger as you get closer to the monument. What time is it here? It is, it's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock here. You're in LA, so it's noon there, right? 3 hours different. And this weekend, we get an extra hour of sleep. Hooray! So I think your clocks, I know in the UK, the clocks turned back this past weekend. Ours will turn back tomorrow night. So get an extra hour of sleep Saturday night. Now this one, we'll get a look at the front of this one, but I do want to catch this side with the sun on. I think this is the Ulysses Hotel. Absolutely grand and beautiful. We'll get a look from the other side. Corny doesn't go away. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Marie Louise Bistro here. And they spared no expense on the outdoor seating. Those are marble topped tables. Wow. Little too windy to be outside today. The food would just fly off the plate and down the street. All right, no walkie sign here, no walkie sign here. Okay, be super careful. right, let's peek over our shoulders here and take a look back at the Ulysses. Now that's painted brick. That's not cream colored stone of any type. That is painted creamy color brick with white accents. Really intricate dental work at the top of the building there near the roof. That's a keeper. That is the Ulysses. Hey, Daryl! 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 Nice to see you, Daryl. We're here in Baltimore. We are on Charles Street, the dividing street of the city, and we're heading toward Mount Vernon and the Washington Monument. This is where the wealthy once lived in Baltimore. These are the grand townhomes, not row homes. Check that one out. Look at the work above the windows on those beautiful, beautiful residences or former residences. I'm assuming most of these buildings that have businesses on the first floors have apartments upstairs. So they still might be residences. We're just steps from the University of Baltimore and very close to the University of Maryland Medical School and downtown campus. So this is a great place for students. Hello, not so subtle. So the Baltimore Architectural, I'm going to say it's Society. I don't think it is. Baltimore Architectural Institute? Society? I'm so sorry. Whatever the group is of people who love architecture. They have an event called Open Doors Baltimore, which was just a week or two ago. And you get the opportunity to visit so many of these amazing historic structures throughout the city. Some of them are preserved and still operating. Other ones are in a bit of despair, shall we say. But all to be admired. I would love these. I don't know if I could do all the steps of a 4 or 5 story townhome. Hello, MD Jahangir. Nice to see you. Hello, Words of Wisdom. We're in Baltimore. We're in the Mount Vernon neighborhood of Baltimore, named Mount Vernon because this neighborhood is the location of our Washington Monument to George Washington. And so Mount Vernon was his estate where he lived in Virginia. And there you'll start to just get a peek of our monument. And when it's safe to cross, I'll cross over. Okay, I'll cross over now. And we'll get a view of the monument. So if you were one of the wealthy in the 1800s in Baltimore, you may have lived on this square. This was the place to be. And we are going to see some beautiful mansions like this one here and some amazing, look at that, the Stafford Hotel, the former Stafford Hotel. Look at that. Amazing. With a fire escape all the way up there. I mean, I guess you needed it back then. Well, you still need it today, I suppose. I went to high school not too far from here, and it was a 6 or 7 story building. Yeah, we had a fire escape. It doesn't look like that on The Wire. Oh, we just haven't gone to that neighborhood today. Lou, it does. It looks very much like The Wire. Homicide: Life on the Street was filmed here. That's my favorite, by the way. I like The Wire too, but Homicide was better. Just depends on where you are. Now, I always like to find these little historic touches that have been preserved. And here we have a coal chute. It says J.N. Blake. I don't know if that was the owner of the building originally or if that was the coal company, but a lot of houses in Baltimore, not just the wealthy, by the way, have those coal chutes because that's how the houses were heated. Coal was safer than wood and more efficient than wood. That church down there, I believe that's St. Alphonsus Church. If this is Monument Street, I don't know which street this is. I believe that's St. Alphonsus Church down there. And when I was a kid, we called it St. Rocket because, obviously, but that was St. Rocket's church. But I think it's St. Alphonsus Church. Whoa, comes the wind again. Sorry about this. If Late Art were here, she, like me, likes a good railing. And here with the white marble steps. Now that's kind of rare. You don't see the fancy railings with the white marble steps too often. Oh my gosh. Okay. I literally can barely walk for this wind. You lived in Columbia in the 70s. It was safe and beautiful. Not sure today. No, Columbia is still great. Columbia is still really great. Just the traffic, Mary. Oh my gosh. No, this is not Salem. This is Baltimore, Maryland. Whoa, we are in Baltimore, Maryland, checking out some of the beautiful architecture in the Mount Vernon Square area. And I have a feeling when I get up to the monument, the wind's going to be the worst because it's the top of the hill, obviously. Hi, Watt. Nice to see you again. Now, in Baltimore, like so many other big cities, you have these alleyways that back in the day were actually, they were streets, right? Back in the day, streets were narrower. You just had to be able to have a cart or a carriage go by. I am not going to go all the way down this alley. Goodness knows what'll jump out. But this is just an example where there are little houses, little apartments in these tiny, tiny alleys all throughout the city. Hello, Fear. Nice to see you. Oh, so let's take a minute while we're out of the wind in this little alley and appreciate where our trees are right now. We're almost at leaf peak right now in the Baltimore area. So we've got the golden, we've got some red and orange going on. We're losing quite a few. We've still got some green. I like it right now when you still have green mixed in with the orange and yellow. So, and today's Halloween, by the way. We haven't seen anyone in a costume today. We haven't seen anyone in a costume. Hi, William. Yeah, we've got people from everywhere in this chat, William. I'm always amazed and appreciative that folks want to join me. Oh my gosh. I'm very appreciative. And if you like the stream, please give us a like. I would so appreciate a like. That helps people find us. And I started this stream about 10 months ago. I'm just amazed so many people join me for these little walks. So planters still going. It's not cold here. We haven't had a frost yet at all. Hi, Jason. Nice to see you. Yeah, we're lucky we haven't had a frost. My roses have a second bloom going on. I'm trying not to shoot straight into the sun. But that's our version of the Washington Monument. It's not as tall as the one in Washington, D.C. We'll get a little closer. We'll go around the other side and we'll be able to get a better shot without shooting into the sun. But this is, for Baltimore, the Mount Vernon Cultural District. You can see what's around here. Historic Charles Street. We're on Charles Street. Center Stage, great theater. The Peabody Library and Peabody Institute. The Walters Art Museum. Also the Enoch Pratt Free Library. The Baltimore, not the Cathedral, sorry, the Basilica is here. And lots of architecture to really appreciate. We'll get a better view. And these beautiful parks around this square. So if you can imagine in the 1800s, the carriages riding around this square with the wealthy, the super uber wealthy, whoa, of Baltimore. Oh my gosh. festooned with artwork and monuments, and a fountain that's not going right now. It wouldn't do any good for a fountain to be going today. The water would just go everywhere. Some information, and just around the corner, this magnificent library, the most beautiful library in the world, the Peabody Library. If you've never seen it, check it out online. It is amazing. And here's where we are. So we're right in the center of the city. Charles Street divides Baltimore east and west. Baltimore Street divides it north and south. And as soon as I get out of this, although this is a great view because we're up on a hill, you can see all the way to the Johns Hopkins Hospital down there. But it's way too windy to stay here. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Literally. Being pushed around by the wind. Okay. All right. The Peabody Institute right here, and its beautiful library, which we won't be able to go in today, but check it out online. Hi Phil, this is Baltimore. I'm gonna go down a half a block. Oh my gosh, just to get out of the wind for a second. This is the Peabody Library. So go online and look up Peabody Library in Baltimore, and you'll be able to see the inside, because I'm quite sure they won't let me in while I'm recording. But this is a nice view of the Washington Monument in Baltimore. Wade, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining. What a crazy day. It's so windy today. It's crazy windy today. So this may be I always say it'll be a short stream, and then it's not. We'll walk until we can't walk anymore. And this is probably the best view because you do get a view of the front of George Washington from this side of the monument. Hey, I'm out. We got a blue sky today. And a beautiful church. Oh, I didn't look to see what the name of that church was. I'm sure I caught it when I walked by it. But the super uber wealthy would have lived right here. They would have had this square as their yard and garden to some extent. There may have been vendors around the monument. Now in the spring, we have Flower Mart here. And this is where you come to get beautiful fresh flowers and lemonade with a peppermint stick. Super yum. All right, it's that wind again. If you tried to fly a kite, Melvin, it would take you away. Yes, Tony. Yes, there were movies filmed in this location. Absolutely. And so many films in and around Baltimore that are really iconic. The big one when I was, it was a television show. Like parts of the TV show Veep with Julia Louis-Dreyfus were filmed in Baltimore to kind of make it look like a suburb of Washington, D.C., but it's not. The movie Diner was filmed here. Of course, Hairspray. And all of the John Waters films were filmed here by native son of Baltimore, John Waters. I could seriously. I mean, it's wild. I mean, look at the tree. Jeez. But check out the wrought iron work here. Now that's kind of more characteristic of the South. And I've mentioned before, like Washington and Baltimore tends to be where like northern architecture and southern architecture meet, obviously, because we're in the middle. Oh my gosh. one shot back at this monument, and then we're gonna find a side street to hide on. Because wind is knocking me down. And I'm actually not even on a sidewalk right now, so I don't want to be flung into the street. This is the Walters Art Museum. World famous and amazing art museum in Baltimore. And for me as a kid, I don't know if they still have it, but this art museum had the armor, the Knights in Armor collection. And that was really cool. But there's a beautiful view right there. That's the picture postcard view. And the fountain that's not on over here, sadly. Try to get a view of that fountain. Yeah, Daryl, we got a lot of construction going on. So yeah, lots of cones in Baltimore. Oh no. Okay, I just splashed myself there. But there's a fountain. There's the monument. Let's see if we can find a side street and still appreciate the beautiful architecture in this neighborhood. As I mentioned, where Zelda Fitzgerald, H.L. Mencken, Wallace Simpson. There's a lot of 1920s Gilded Age history here in this part of Baltimore. We'll take a few steps down the street. It should get better as I get away from the top of this. I mean, I'm on the top of the hill, so that's, whoa, obvious. We'll cross over here where it's safe. Check out all the care. This is all marble. Everything around this square is all white marble. Any plans for Halloween tonight? In my neighborhood, my kids are the youngest and there are no other kids. So I'd be surprised if anyone came to the door tonight. It is sad. I live in an area where there aren't little kids. So I'll go home and, I always buy the candy that we would have enjoyed. So I'll have a peppermint patty or two. How about you all? What are you all doing for Halloween? I'm actually surprised. I'm seeing like no one is in costume. Check out that beautiful corner building. Lovely. We're here at the right time. It's not golden hour yet. But in a downtown area, you lose light so early in the evenings because of the tall buildings. Now you'll notice here in Baltimore, we are shrouded by taller buildings than we are in Washington, D.C. In fact, this building here, I can't get a view of it in the middle of the street, but we saw the Belvedere Hotel. We've seen those buildings would not have been built to that height in Washington, D.C. So when we're in in Washington, we don't get the wind tunnel effect that we're getting today. We don't get the loud traffic because of the height restrictions on the buildings. And the streets are wider in Washington as well. Oh, good. A break in the wind, thankfully. Thankfully. Oh, I see some folks in costume up there. Oh, those cars. Turning, I was trying to turn back and get a little view of this corner building here. Now this one stands out as quite different. It has an Italianate look with that terracotta tile roofing. The stone railing in front of a faux balcony there on the corner. So a little bit of an Italian style influencing as well. Quite a mix here in Baltimore. I'm surprised we're not hearing more horns honking, although it's not quite the end of the day yet. Baltimore drivers are not the most patient people in the world, and Baltimore pedestrians are not the smartest people in the world. So usually lots of honking going on. Now we're getting closer to kind of the Midtown Center City Business District, away from that residential area for the wealthy. We're still on Charles Street. If you've noticed, Charles Street is one way north, and its companion next door, one way south, is Light Street or St. Paul Street. St. Paul divides and then later becomes Light Street, going one way south. In 2008, Pope John Paul the Great, St. John Paul the Great, visited Baltimore and visited our basilica. And it looks like this gate is closed, but this is a garden in his honor here next to the basilica, which is the first cathedral-ish in the United States. Baltimore was the first Catholic diocese established in the United States. And so its cathedral, which is a basilica now, the cathedral of the archdiocese is actually much farther up on Charles Street. But this was America's first cathedral, and we'll get a really good look at it from the other side. So the history, whether you're Catholic or not, the history of religion in America, Baltimore plays a really important part in it. And here's another look at the garden and the statue to John Paul the Great. But right here, again, on top of another hill in Baltimore. When I talk about Washington, D.C., and I say how flat Washington, D.C. is, except at Capitol Hill, Baltimore is hilly. Baltimore has lots of hills. And you'll find important things built on top of those hills, whether they are cathedrals, cemeteries, in some cases breweries. At the top of every hill in Baltimore is something important to our history. And in most cities, it's the same thing. You don't want to build down in a ditch. Now, as we're getting closer into the center of the city, these are the businesses. These were the photographic studios, insurance companies. This was possibly a bank. I'll have to do some research on this one. I've always liked this one. It's a restaurant, but I've always really loved this building here. Vernon, oh my gosh, it's great to see you. How are you? Hello, fruits owner, nice to see you. We are walking through the Mount Vernon area of Baltimore, my hometown, and appreciating its beautiful architecture. And in this part, we get such an interesting transition from the residential to the businesses. Lots of banks in Baltimore, lots of insurance companies. In addition to the trade, we're right on the water. The inner harbor leads right out to the Chesapeake Bay, major trade location. Even today, the Port of Baltimore, I think it's the second busiest port in the United States. So even now, so important. Businesses of all kinds sprouted up throughout the city. And this was the place to be. Now I love this one on the corner. I can kind of tell the older ones, the older brick, built in the 1800s. Well, you'll have these brick dwellings right next to the stone, right next to the marble and the granite. Wooden structures didn't really survive here. You can see this street here. Oops. This becomes Orleans Street. That is Mercy Medical Center there. Another of our hospital centers here. Baltimore, obviously known for Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, Mercy. If you get sick in Baltimore, you'll be all right. You'll be okay. We're going to divert from Charles Street, head around the corner and take a look at the Basilica. See, some of the roses are still going a little bit. Hello, Smith Pujari. Happy Halloween. Does Baltimore have subways? We have like subways for sandwiches. Yes, subways underground. We have a sort of subway. Baltimore does have an underground transit system. It is very limited. It literally goes in like one direction. And then we have a light rail system. But it's nothing like DC or Baltimore's a small city compared to Washington, DC. It's very, very compact. You can walk from end to end in Baltimore, except for the hills, right? I remember one day I walked 11 miles in London because it's so flat. I walked from one side of Hyde Park all the way to the Tower of London and then back down through the City of London and then gave up. I couldn't make it all the way back. This city, you couldn't do that because it's just too hilly. Townhomes here. And a brownstone, which is, again, not too characteristic of Baltimore, but more characteristic in this neighborhood than in others. Around Mount Vernon, you'll find these, but not in many other places. Most other places, it's plain old brick. And then this one has that mansard roof, trying to have that little French influence. Hi, Flower, nice to see you. Hey, Linda, nice to see you. So I mentioned the, history of the Catholic Church here in Baltimore. So before we take a gander at the cathedral, this is the office building of the headquarters of the Archdiocese of Baltimore, the first Catholic diocese in the United States. And if you just compare down that street, look at that super tall apartment building. Again, you can't have those in Washington, D.C. for the height restrictions. So Baltimore is more of a compact city, but a taller city than Washington, D.C. Now, I think if you're an architecture fan, this is the corner, or this is the intersection where you want to be. Because for me and for many, their two favorite buildings in Baltimore are right here. The Enoch Pratt Free Library, for a lot of reasons, is one of my favorite buildings in the world. Not just for its stunning architecture, but for what it is. It is our central library. It is more than books. It is more than videos. It is community events. It is helping people find jobs. It is the location of the Maryland Room. If you are a historian or a genealogist like me, you need to know where the Maryland Room is for all your research needs. Oh, Linda, your granddad owned a bar in Baltimore. Oh my gosh, do you know where it was? There are so many. I did a video on corner bars. I did a video a long time ago. We didn't find too many. It ended up being a short stream. But there are so many in the neighborhoods of Canton and Fells Point. There are so many that are still corner bars today because of that unique architecture, and they've just turned over. So there's an exhibit now for the Carmelo Anthony, the Baltimore home of Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player. There's an exhibit to launch his book, House of Melo, here in Baltimore. But so much goes on here, and thanks to the generous donation of Mr. Enoch Pratt back in the 1800s, libraries were built around the city, and they still exist today. And in fact, the former head librarian of the Enoch Pratt Library is now the librarian of the United States. The librarian of the Library of Congress, Carla Hayden, was our librarian here in Baltimore. So good on you, Carla. And directly across the street is America's first cathedral. And it's impossible to get a great view except from above, and we're not above. This is what it would look like if you could see the entire building. The beautiful Baltimore Basilica, a national shrine on the National Register of Historic Places. America's first cathedral. And today, still an absolutely beautiful church. And again, I'm too close, and the only way to get a good picture is from above. But from here, this beautiful intersection with the Basilica and this beautiful library, if you just want to appreciate architecture, and even some of the buildings you can see in a distance there, totally remarkable. We'll have to find a way to stream inside some of these beautiful buildings. You can get a peek at one of the towers. There are two towers that look like that and a dome on top. A rounded, small dome, not like a St. Paul's Cathedral dome, but you can kind of get a little peek of it there. It's just too hard when you're in a city to try to get an entire view of a beautiful building. But a great day for the flags going. Almost too good for those flags, really. This is Cathedral Street, aptly named Cathedral Street, parallel to Charles Street. And another beautiful church across the way, not as old as the cathedral. And you can see that the Pratt Library, built in 1882, significantly renovated in 1931. Interior significantly renovated just a few years ago to reveal beautiful paintings on the ceiling, the walls, just amazingly painted. And I have done a video there. Oh, your mom doesn't remember. Oh, you know what? But as long as you have a few clues, it only takes a few clues to put the story together. Now this was the first YMCA in Baltimore. Yes. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's a hotel now. It's a hotel now. But it was the original Baltimore YMCA. where you could get yourself clean and have a good meal and do whatever you feel. I'll stop now. I promise. Oh, Linda, I was talking when you said that your mom didn't remember. I was assuming you were talking about the bar. Just takes a few clues, and they're good maps. So for Baltimore, the Martinet maps and the Sanborn fire maps might be a help. Hey, ASDF. I think his last name was Tony, my grandfather. Linda, I'm going to check that out. I love corner bars. I just love the, it's like in England, or the UK, I guess England really, for pubs. Just they all had their own flavor. And there really was one on every corner, even when I was a kid. My grandparents actually owned a corner grocery store, but way before I was born. Like even when my mom was little, they owned a corner grocery store. And I just love that. Everybody had their little corner place. Now this is one of those small alleys, a total find. Here in Baltimore. Can't remember which street this is. I can't see the name of the street. We'll see it when I come back up. This is early 1800s architecture. And on this one, you'll notice above those beautiful shutters, see that black disc? That's the fire insurance company. That's the fire insurance company medallion. Baltimore Equitable would have been two hands shaking. Clasping. So, what you had to worry about, and insurance companies way back in the day, they were fire insurance companies because that's what you had to worry about. Didn't have to worry about car insurance because there were no cars. And if your house caught on fire and you didn't have the medallion, well, then you were at the mercy of your neighbors to bring buckets because the fire company might not come to your rescue. And maybe if they did, they'd make sure they sold you on having insurance in the future. Oh, this is Hamilton Street. Okay, this is Hamilton Street. One of those beautiful, tiny 1800s. Oh, that's such a great memory, Linda, though. When you remember those little things, places. Just these tiny, tiny little old buildings. Could have the original wooden doors. Hey Ben, how are you? We are in Baltimore, Ben. We're in the Mount Vernon Historic District of downtown Baltimore. My Baltimore accent has come out in full force. These are some of the oldest in this immediate area. Now, on our prior streams, when we visited Canton and Fells Point, I showed you some of the oldest houses in Baltimore, including the oldest continuously operating bar in Baltimore, the Horse You Came In On. And when I say oldest, it's like the oldest in the country. But here, just for this area, these are the oldest residences dating to the early 1800s. I mean, like probably 1810 for that one on the corner. I'm just guessing because I know one from 1810 that is exactly like that. Now here's a treat. Who knows what that is? That's a boot scraper. That is a boot scraper. And we found one when we were doing our walk in Canton looking for corner bars. We found a boot scraper. Oh, hey, Ben, I appreciate you coming over. This was another unplanned stream. It's a beautiful day. Boy, the beginning of the stream was so windy. I'm not going to say anything, but I think the wind has stopped. It was so windy. This was unplanned, but it's a beautiful day. Bright, sunny, blue skies, and I happened to be in Baltimore. And I thought, let's take a look at some beautiful architecture. Now, why are all these cars in the middle of the street? Because the wise, in air quotes, leaders of our city decided that we needed bike lanes. And so they put a bike lane here and a car lane over there, and the parking's in the middle, and I dare you to find a bike. There are so few people who bike in this city. Again, compared to Washington, D.C., compared to even London, Baltimore is hilly. It's not San Francisco, but it's hilly. Fewer people bike in Baltimore. Now this is another one with the wrought iron railing and the white marble steps. Just beautiful. Oh, nope, I found the wind. Okay. Okay, we found it again. You know, just in case. Just in case anyone thought that it wasn't going to be windy again. It came back. But that's okay. Yep, so our metro is 7 blocks away and our light rail 2 blocks away. It really just goes in one direction. I mean, 2 directions, you know, north and south. That's about it. This is we saw the front of the Walters Art Museum. This is the Center Street side. Okay. I'm gonna move really quickly across the street. And there are several ghost signs around Baltimore. If you keep your eyes peeled, there's Home Mutual Life over there. Okay, there's a scooter guy. I still haven't seen any cyclists. Another one of the many historic insurance companies around Baltimore. Oh my gosh, here comes the wind again. It really is impeding my walking, and I'm sure, unfortunately, it's terrible audio for you. But on the bright side, it will be fall tomorrow, I'm sure. You always get one of these super windy days, and then the next day, that's it. Summer's over. There's another look back at the Home Mutual Life Company. And again, you can see the height of that apartment building next to it. Which you won't find in Washington. Oh, to get there from near Andrews. Hi, Matt. So you probably did have to take the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel to get to a neighborhood like Canton or Fells Point, I'm sure. I'm certain. Now this home, probably 1800s, mid to late 1800s, with the carriage entrance here. Worst part of living in Baltimore, the reputation. I mean, really, truly the crime, but also the reputation. Now here is one of those horse posts. We were looking for these in Canton because I remember one as a kid. But here's a horse post and a carriage block. That's a treasure. So you would step up on the step to alight your horse and tie your horse up right there. How cool is that? Some of these former residences are now bed and breakfasts, apartment buildings, boutique also very close to the Maryland Historical Society. They changed their name to the Maryland Center for History and Culture, but it's still the Maryland Historical Society. We will take a trip there one day because they do have some fantastic exhibits. They are one of the world's largest repositories of historic fashion, and their fashion collection, dating through all periods of United States history, is truly unique and outstanding, if you're into that. Getting like a little cyclone of leaves over there. Okay, I'm gonna brave it. Okay, a few more steps and I'm gonna be in the wind tunnel again. We can do it. So we're back up to the square. We're on the other side of the square. Check it out. The absolute wealthiest of Baltimore lived here in the 1800s. Anyone who was anyone. This was like the Washington Square, of Baltimore. Members' private interest. I don't know what this is. We'll have to see what this is. Oh, this is the Engineering Society. So just like in Washington, D.C., and even in London, some of the grand mansions that had to be left after the Depression, after finances turned, were either taken over in Washington, D.C. by the foreign missions and the embassies, and in other cities they were taken over by private members' clubs if one wanted to take it over. This is the Garrett Jacobs Mansion. Ooh, check out that staircase. This is huge. This may be the largest one here. Hello, Lourdes. Hi, Leah Liz. Nice to see you. Linda, it's genetic. I think all things like that are genetic. I do. Where we live, what we choose to do. I think there's a little bit of DNA that has to do with that. Check this one out with the number 5 lit up. I don't know if you can see that. Number 5. And another carriage block that has been saved. Nice to see those still here. Linda, you've been around. Must have been a big change in weather to go from the mid-Atlantic to Arizona. This is really interesting, this sidewalk. This is different. This isn't typical. Another boot scraper. Glad to see that. And glad to see the beautiful ironwork around these windows. I'm such a huge fan of the wrought ironwork. All right, I am going to cross the street because we're not doing these beautiful buildings justice. Another great view of the monument. Hi, Julie. Nice to see you. So we came down that way past the Peabody Institute. And again, please look up Peabody Library on the internet. You will find that it is the most beautiful library in the world. In this building here, right here, the most beautiful library in the world. But across the way here, oh heck, and I didn't read the sign. The Hackerman House, the Hackerman House. This is grand. These were the wealthy of the wealthy back in the day. Wallace Simpson, the chick who caused the King of England to abdicate. H.L. Mencken, F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald. Not Edgar Allan Poe. He didn't live in this area. He was poor. He was not one of the wealthy elite. He was a struggling writer. Oh, the fountain on this side is on. Oh, check that out. Wow. Past the line, you can see the dancing boy fountain. The water's not staying in there. And then over on this side, 6-story townhomes. 6. That's a lot of stairs. So your servants would be living both upstairs and downstairs. On the top floor, tippy top floor, were the ladies' maids and the valets. And on the bottom floor would be the cooks and the scullery maids. So Mr. No. Oh gosh. Carson would be living upstairs, and Daisy and Mrs. Patmore would be living in the basement. Now this one definitely stands out. This is all marble. Gleaming, absolutely gleaming. Is this where Cabrini Green used to be? I don't know. Oh, Arlington Cemetery is absolutely beautiful, but I would never, ever video there. Too much respect. Too much respect. In fact, I get really angry when I see people being disrespectful there. Look at this teeny tiny extension here in between these buildings. It's a nice view of the fountain. It's so quiet here. Truly. Number 12, Mount Vernon Place. The Agora companies. Check this one out. Holy moly. Well, it appears they definitely preserve the interior. I'm not going to get close to the windows because that's rude, but I can see those candelabra sconces were typical of Baltimore. I don't know, even into the 60s and the 70s, a lot of folks had those. But check out the carvings in the stone on this one. This would be great for a candlelight tour. I'm sure there are candlelight tours. None are decorated for Halloween. I wonder if they decorate for Christmas. I know they used to in the very old days. Oh, and by the way, that big monument of George Washington at Christmas time is lit up. There are lights that cascade from the monument, and it's a huge deal to be here for monument lighting. And I've been to an event that started at the Maryland Historical Society and then went to some other locations and then ended up here at the monument. And it's a fabulous time. Hello, Zara. Nice to see you. Hi, Jan. Oh, look, we get a marker. The Severn Building. Constructed in 1895. Purchased in 1976. Still owned by his wife, Constance, and their children. The family is committed to maintaining and improving Mount Vernon. Well, thank you, Mrs. Constance Kaplan. We do appreciate that. And check out across the way. Definitely a former theater, I think. That's what I'm guessing. But don't quote me. This is not one of those tours where I've done all my research ahead of time, so I do apologize. I'm just making guesses. Some people get annoyed with me when I'm too specific, and some people get annoyed with me when I give the wrong information. This is one of those tours where I'm guessing a little bit, just based on comparing with similar structures. Oh, there's our first little Halloween decoration. This little pumpkin man. This lonely little pumpkin man here. It's the only Halloween decoration we've seen today. Good on you, dude. Just another look at St. Alphonsus Church. As I mentioned at the beginning of this stream, as a kid we called that St. Rockets for obvious reasons. There's one pointy steeple. And this is the Baltimore School for the Arts. Hence the theater entrance over there. Okay, so the Baltimore School for the Arts. Here. Hi, Patricia. Thank you. That's really kind of you. If you'd hit the like button, I would be so grateful. If you enjoy the stream, if you don't, that's okay too. That's totally okay too. Now, there's some stained glass, but because there's no light on, can't really get a good view of it. A couple characteristics of the working neighborhoods. This was not a working class neighborhood. Okay, this was the elite of the elite lived here in Mount Vernon. But if you're in a working class neighborhood, Canton, Fells Point, Highlandtown, some of the other areas, really east, south, southeast, we've been on a search for painted window screens, and we haven't found any. I think people are getting rid of their painted window screens. Why would you paint a window screen? Well, you'd paint a nice little scene on the window screen, but it would also give you just a little bit more protection from the sun. By painting the outside, the sun wasn't, the wind, the air would still come through the screen, but the sun wouldn't. And so they gave you just a little more, to help cool you off just a little bit. We haven't found any. Now, what we have found is the stained glass transoms above the doors with the street numbers on them. So those we find, but we're still on a search from time to time in those neighborhoods to find those painted screens. Now, I wanted to cross over to get a really good look at this one. It's kind of that hodgepodge style of different architectural shapes in this building, which I don't like. I don't like the rounded towers, turrets, whatever you want to call them. Bows and bays. I don't like the rounded mixed with the square. If you're going to be square, stay square. If you're going to be rounded, stay rounded. I don't like the mix. This one just doesn't have architectural harmony. It just feels like they kept building it, kind of like the Winchester Mansion. They just kept building it with no plan. I'm sure they had a plan. And I'm sure some folks really like this design. I just think it's a bit much. It's hard to focus and it's hard to appreciate when your eyes are doing way too much. James, there's no Halloween. We saw one sad little pumpkin man. That's all we've seen. Thank you for joining the stream. Oh, because it's only 4 hours time difference, and I started this stream early today. So James, we're in the wealthy district of Baltimore, Mount Vernon. It's kind of like the Washington Square of Baltimore. And that's our Washington Monument here in Baltimore. So everyone in chat, Stasis Geek, see that guy there? Sub to his channel tomorrow at, okay, see if I do this right. Did you change your time or did I change my time? Tomorrow at some time in the afternoon, on Film Club on Stasis Geek's channel, we will be talking about The Duelists. And I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. Yes, thank you, James. It's 4 p.m. Eastern time on the East Coast of the United States. Just for this weekend, it's 8 p.m. in the UK. But next week, we'll be back to our same 5-hour difference because our clocks change at midnight Saturday night. So everyone in chat, please go over to James's channel, Stasis Geek. Sub to his channel and click on the notification for Film Club. Everyone is it's the wind is I can't talk. Everyone is invited to Film Club. And if you have time to watch The Duelists as you all say, ahead of time, all the better. All the better. Yeah, I'm gonna take a look back. Like, no. See, we don't care for this. The one behind it, yes, the former Stafford Hotel, beautiful. This thing, no, not liking it. Not liking it at all. All right, be careful crossing this street. There's the shot. And there's no traffic coming yet. Well, everyone, this has been, it's like they try to do architecture. Yeah, I know. It's like they just kept, I don't like when the round and the square mix. I don't. And I don't like that witch's hat on the top there of that round bow area. Not a fan. Not a fan. But I am a fan of Mount Vernon Square here in Baltimore. And I want to thank everyone for joining me today on this completely unscheduled stream, just because we had a blue sky. And now we've lost the sun. Our buildings are taller here, so we lose the sun a little bit earlier. Thanks to everyone who joined. Please go over to Stasis Geek's channel and join us tomorrow for Film Club. Tomorrow morning, I may be in New Market, Maryland for Main Street Bingo tomorrow. So I think we're gonna do New Market if the weather holds, and we'll check it out. Everyone have a fantastic night. Happy Halloween. Hope to see you tomorrow. Take care.